All right, back to markets for our main story. It's been a wild week for both crypto and stocks, so I spoke with Kraken's Tomas Perfumo, a global economist at the company, about what's driving the volatility and what we can expect in the weeks to come. Thank you so much for joining me on Crypto World this week. What a week, right? Bitcoin not totally immune from the whiplash that we saw in the market, but I will say nice to see kind of milder pops and drops than what we did see in stocks. What is your sort of big takeaway from this week?
Yeah, definitely. I think my hypothesis coming into this year was that the macro environment was going to be a big deal for crypto, in particular with the new regime shift going on, and I think that's proving true here. Of course, when you have these kind of big macroeconomic shock events, the first thing that happens is most risk assets get sold off, and importantly, the correlations also typically get much higher. And so, even though crypto went from call it zero point 0.5 to zero point 0.6 correlation, positive correlation with US equity indices around the time of the election in November of last year. It actually dropped down to the teens back in February of this year as crypto was making all time highs, at least Bitcoin was. And we're right back to that kind of zero point 0.5 to zero point 0.6 level of positive correlation. So what we're seeing is kind of this natural reaction of people, investors in particular, are just de-risking across the board, trying to make sense of the uncertainty and trying to understand where they want to position, where their conviction lies going forward. So that's kind of what we're seeing with the washout. And with Bitcoin in particular, I personally think it's been relatively holding up better than I expected going into an event like this, probably in part because it's more viewed as that kind of defensible, safe haven asset within the crypto industry itself.
This morning, at least for the week, gold the outperformer. Measuring from Monday, Bitcoin up about the same percent for the week as the S&P 500, and then the dollar index, the biggest loser after it earlier suffered its biggest drop in 3 years. What does Bitcoin standing against those other assets in this moment, in the context of the global trade war that we're watching, and the heightened economic uncertainty and recession fears? What is this telling you about how investors are valuing Bitcoin right now relative to the other major assets?
Sure.